Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Woohoo! Party! Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Woohoo! Happy Valentine's Day. I think today's Valentine's Day, although the love of my life dearly departed, sadly. Geez, a long time ago now. Now I say more than a decade ago. So I don't really do all that kind of stuff. But happy Valentine's Day to all of you out there. And of course, all the ladies who've fallen in love with me over the years because of my bubbly personality. Hugs and kisses to you all. Whatever the hell that means. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Frivolity. We've been having fun at TRI watching the Senate hearings on crypto. And of course, throwing in our, the comments from the cheap seats and all that kind of fun stuff. Listening to these guys. And actually, I thought it was so funny while we were listening to them away in the lounge. I was posting pictures of the gentleman. And it's so funny, these staffers, right? Because they'll never say anything, but they have to sit there through the whole damn thing and look like they care. But this guy here, he has the most bored look on his face ever. I mean, this guy's the most bored staffer you could ever see. So anyway, I was having fun watching that. But this lady, she got a pretty good head on her shoulders. And she's kind of like, don't over-regulate this space or you're going to drive everything overseas, which makes sense because that's usually what happens. And if anything, this is the one time, like 100 years ago, the U.S. government could come out and just say, thou shalt not do this or thou shalt not do that. And of course, there was no alternative. Now in this crazy digital world, you say thou shalt not buy cryptocurrencies, and the cryptocurrency people say, fine, thou shalt not ever do any business in the United States of America. Mwah, goodbye. And of course, head on over and get into trouble with other countries' jurisdictions. So anyway, the gentleman, I didn't take a picture of him. He was kind of a goofball. Lee, we were all bashing that Lee guy. He just wants to basically outlaw crypto. Then the other lady that was on the panel, typical sort of university professor kind of talk, blah, blah, blah. But what I thought was funny was, where's this guy? Why isn't he at the hearing? So if somebody happens to see him in the hearing and can take a screenshot of that would be hilarious to see if he turned up there. But anyway, that's just Brian having fun. One thing I absolutely love about our lounge, we've got some very knowledgeable crypto participants, and of course excellent traders, and you put the two together and it makes for a very enjoyable time hanging out in the lounge, just chit-chatting away. Of course, we're not allowed to chase, so a lot of these markets that have moved up recently, it's sort of like, man, do you do anything? Maybe we just wait a bit and let things calm down. One thing I will say that jumped out at me, though, is we've been running this algorithm now. And keep in mind, I've been sort of pseudo running this algo for, probably the past 20 years or so, because I built the Delacour index back on my 1980s website. And then got together with some crypto people in the, 2014 through 2017, 18. The grand decision to import Brian's 1980s website and algorithms and stuff into the 21st century was made, and voila, here we have the DI in the 21st century. And one thing that really jumped out at me yesterday, and I actually think I even put a tweet out to this effect, is whenever you see a situation where you have the algorithm itself in extremely oversold condition, and the indicator starting to turn back up, and you have the histograms heavily embedded one direction or other. In this case, buy setup, where I had the country funds and the S&P 500 all very oversold in both the medium and short term. usually sets up one hell of a buy signal. And really this is what I would suggest is the best way to use this algorithm is just wait for these conditions. And lo and behold, I was quite surprised yesterday. Of course, you see that the breadth for the crypto top 30 was down very, very oversold. And at the same time, you see the crypto top 30, the short term, basically sitting like minus 90 or something along those lines. And medium term, about minus 80 and change. So heavily, heavily oversold, which means that if I get any kind of bullishness coming out of this indicator, I got to get back in on the buy side. I really don't have any choice. This is this particular trading plan that I'm running this quarter. I've just got it up and running in earnest. Just since it's actually just since basically the end of last year. You can see in December I started to work away on it, and you can see, all the algorithm does is just tell you when the market's at an extreme one or another. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to buy higher or lower prices. But what we really want to do is we want to try and capture these big explosive moves that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies often experience. So, you might find that this waffles back and forth, buy signal, sell signal, buy signal. Then you get a buy signal and the goddamn thing just launches higher. So, I might be in here buying, selling, kind of like this, how I had to do 3 or 4 trades before, something actually caught. But nonetheless, last night, loaded up the algo and it update dates at about 9 p.m. my time. And you can see here, fast 10, slow 6.67, that's a cross. So I had no choice but to go in and buy. I mean, following the plan, right? I mean, that's the whole point of this is build a plan, follow the plan, live with the results. If we do 20, 30 trades, in fact, I'm just going to run this through the whole year. If we do that, and at the end of the year, we'll look at the results. And if we lost money, obviously this plan wasn't a very good idea. My hunch, though, is that actually we're going to do fairly well with this. So I'm pretty optimistic. Anyway, long and short of it, like I said, did go and buy yesterday. And it was fascinating getting ready for the hearing. And then all of a sudden, price just launched itself higher. No idea why. And what I think's happened here is this is sort of like a classic sell the rumor and then on the actual event, buy the news. That's what I think's going on. Now, does this have traction going forward? I have no idea. I mean, nobody really has any sort of crystal ball. If anything, what I do like to see here is, I'm a big fan of these W things. So you can see on the 4-hour basis, we have a nice W through that level. We're long, and we're just going to be long until the algo tells me to not be long. So just letting it do its thing. This happens to be one trading plan that I run. I run a whole bunch of different trading plans. But this has been a fun one. And I would like to, the boys actually put together, I'm not sure if we have it. I'm not sure if we have it handy or not, but we had actually a really cool sign up page for the algo system. And the team, the marketing team, Josh and Julian and the whole crew. I think Sjord was part of it. They put down a whole bunch of spreadsheets of some great data, just showing, what was the performance if you took the signal. There was a whole bunch of sort of back testing just to prove that the model worked. This is real money, real dollars, and actually on the site in Brian's big fat bot, the name of the room. Keep in mind, we are moving to Discord here soon. So the Rocket Chat interface will go away, but we'll probably have something similar like this. But I just went in, and actually kind of a good thing because there's no fees on Binance. I put when I liquidated here, I put the money into that BUSD. But considering the problems that CZ's having, with regard to U.S. regulators and stuff, maybe it's a good idea not to be in that BUSD. And so if anything, it's kind of fortunate that the buy signal came in. So I took all my money out of that BUSD and parked it into Bitcoins. So, and we should be able to move the Bitcoin off of there fairly easy if the FUD starts to really stick. But anyway, so the point of the matter here is that particular trading plan actually fired and got me to back in on the long side on Bitcoin. So go figure. And as I said, what the hell? It looks like we're heading in the right direction. Only time will tell. No, and as I put out in the tweet, no opinions. This is just purely a plan. I'm vetting it out. I put a couple grand into the account to trade this. I think it's interesting. The couple grand is now worth about 2,400. So it is appreciating. And slow and steady wins the race. We'll see how this looks by the end of the year. My hunch is we do this 2 or 3 years in a row, and we can actually go to Wall Street and pitch starting a fund off of the algo systems. I think the signals are that good. All right, so that's sort of long-winded. Of course, a lot of this is about is this I was wondering a week or two ago, and I put out public tweets and stuff. I didn't know what was going to happen. Was this going to be one of these buy the rumor, and we were going to make some sort of massive ugly top in through this event, or was it going to be a sell the rumor? If it was buy the rumor, then it would be sell the news. And as you can clearly see, we did not face rip higher here into this event. We actually sold the rumor, and you can see that's a pretty good looking W. Technically speaking, I don't really have a problem being long. I mean, you see the volume pattern, it's ramping up, higher highs and higher lows. Anybody who's taken our level 1 program, this is a really, really good example of volume impetus, where you can see the bears were alive and I'm a bear, look at me. But then where the hell did the bears go? They just kind of disappeared. And at the same time, price came down. You can see the bulls all of a sudden started waking up and look at me, I'm a bull. So that's a good sign. W's and RSIs through 50 lines. I don't know. Has anybody ever heard me talk about W's and RSIs through 50 lines? I think so. Interesting, back here, I had suggested that this thing had lots of room to run, and I still think Willie's not even remotely overbought. Willie actually sitting right now basically middle of the road. So we've got big breakouts in RSI. We've got big breakouts in volume. We got Willie's nowhere near overbought. And it looks like we got a W in price. So if anything, I kind of like the fact that the algos got me long here. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. I did see that the broader market is looking really waffly. Of course, what's the news today? If you weren't involved in crypto, then you're probably concentrating on what the hell the inflation numbers are. Of course, crypto people, our attention is always sort of half absorbed with what the heck the politicians are going to do to us in our playing field. But the broader market, I think the big news here today, of course, is we had CPI data come out. And you can see the headline here, stocks waver after CPI report. Inflation falls less than expected, i.e. we're still up, in fact, we're still in that 6s. I think a lot of people were kind of thinking we would get down into the 5s. So, as Jerry's been saying recently, this is not something that's going to end tomorrow. This is probably going to take months and months and months of relatively high short-term interest rates. Remember Mr. Druckenmiller, he said, and frankly speaking, I like the idea that this sort of interest rate rising regime won't stop until we actually see short-term interest rates higher than the CPI data. So if CPI data is coming in relatively firm, for lack of a better term, 5.6%, you can see we slightly made a higher high. We've made lower lows. So if anything, this is a megaphone now. We probably, like any good technician, if we have a new all-time high in a stock, we expect that at some point that high will be tested. We've basically come straight line down here. over the past 4 or 5 months. Of course, was a lot of that sort of forward jacked because of the manipulation of things like oil prices around the US election. And of course, that, is not really sustainable over time. So are you going to start to see now a rebounding the other direction in things like food and energy prices heading into the spring? My hunch is yes. But at the same time, too, we're still looking at a pretty ugly number there, right? So, and then, probably more importantly for the headline number that people see in the newspaper, 6.4%, that actually slightly upticked from what the market was kind of hoping to see. So that's going the wrong direction. The core rate, this is what, of course, the Fedsters and stuff like to use to set their interest rate policy. That also upticked higher than expectations. So on balance, it's not like the inflation bugaboo is dead. We still got a lot of sort of heavy slogging ahead of us. And if I understand correctly, we're not really getting any sort of resolution out of the Ukraine situation. And if anything, what I'm hearing is we should actually probably expect that whole theater to ramp up, and the sadly, the loss of life is going to get a lot worse, not better going forward. But anyway, if anything, probably Mr. Druckenmiller is happy to see that Red Book is finally starting to come back down to earth. This was the number one thing, and I had been talking to my community, TRI, about this at length, that this is sort of your measure of the public. Still sitting, fives. The Fed would like this to preferably to be probably about half of this. And, this was the utter and complete stupidity of the central planners, or maybe not. Of course, we've had lots of those kind of conversations. And, Mr. Druckenmiller looks at this and say, well, why are you destroying our economy? Oh, I know, because this is part of Klaus's Great Reset. Oh, I forgot. Shh. Next topic. Anyway, point here is total financial irresponsibility by the central planners. You heard Jerry say recently, look at the food and the energy markets, they're calming down, that disinflation is coming. But now we got to see it out of things like the U.S. housing market. We've got to see it out of things like the U.S. consumer spending. So if anything, what you really want to see to make sure that this inflation bugaboo really is brought in check is retail sales here. And sort of the general enthusiasm of the consumer is calming down. And I don't think, honestly, I look at some of the data points, I look at the way that people are acting. Unfortunately, I'm in this really weird economic environment here in Canada. Not really the same as the US, but I think the US still relatively strong. I noticed things like mortgage applications still pretty strong. And I think that this whole Fed cycle doesn't end until you start to see those mortgage application and housing prices themselves come off. And we've talked lots about this. I mean, none of this should be a surprise to anybody. If we go and look at our Fed fund study, and of course, this is where we get into sort of boring economics. These studies all said that we should bottom probably the middle of the summer. So for us to be thinking about the market turning now is probably a little premature. If anything, we want to see where we get into a situation where the euro dollar market is actually above the Fed funds. And that means that the Fed can actually start lowering interest rates, which of course is all about, stimulating the economy. Then you'll start seeing money pouring back into speculative assets, like things like cryptocurrencies and stocks and stuff. So, if anything, what I've suggested to people is I would prefer that we actually have this kind of environment where the euro dollar market, which is nothing than the corporate interest rate market, it hits its zenith of the cycle and then just goes sideways. We put in our W's that we all love. In fact, if we can get an M inside the W, that's even better, because then you have a whole bunch of people that are wanted to go short, but they're trapped. what do we have so far? Well, we've got the makings of maybe a bottom here, but there is no bottom here yet. And, if we just follow our sine wave sort of thinking, as I said there, really, and I would imagine the Fed sees this same study too. Really, that's August, right? So where are we? February, March, April, May, June, July, August. That's still 6 months from now that we probably should expect the Fed to still be like, well, we could raise the interest rates any moment now. And if we have to, we will. And sadly, if this euro dollar market does tick down, because things like natural gas prices start to take off here again, we might not be done this rate increasing cycle. And what's a little bit scary to that is that the site itself and the algos all sort of point towards that. Because if we go back to our breadth indicators, and this is the great part about sort of listening to the market's data, not sort of our opinions. If we look at the breadth of the bond market, you can see the bonds actually broke down here. Yeah, this is back the middle of January. This is actually where I got my sell signal on things like stocks and Bitcoin and stuff, but they have not turned back up. It is interesting to see how the utilities are trying to turn back up. So maybe we can get some sort of reprieve, but the bonds themselves don't look very happy at all. And I think I don't know whether I did this on the, I can't remember whether this was on the public broadcast or whether it was on the Afterparty show. But yesterday I went through a lot of these bond charts, and I don't like the look of these failures where they're failing. I mean, M tops right at, this is what I call the moving average sandwich. I mean, we're compressing in here, and guys like Nico Barker, I think that's his name, he would have something to say about this, right? They're all squeezing together, and then you get a resolution on the other side, and it's like, uh-oh, that's not good. So you can see that these bond markets look heavier than stink. They're not really overly happy. So with that said, we're not out of the woods just yet here. And then, of course, it's probably nothing. It'll probably take too long for me to find, but you've seen, maybe I can sort of talk my way through this. You've seen how my hunch, 2023, Benner cycle bottom, all those kind of fun things. My hunch is that this market kind of goes sideways through 23. You'll get fits and starts where it's like, oh my God, it's a new bull market, away we go. Wait a minute, go up, slow down, and we got to go back down, check the lows and all that kind of fun stuff. Ironically enough, you know what 23 is going to look like? It should look like our mug and our killer mouse pad. So remember that image, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down. And then we go and look at I think it's the Wyckoff bottoming process. I think there's a specific name for it, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. But anyway, Richard Wyckoff, 100 or 200 days, I guess about 100 years ago, put this together. And this will probably be sort of my last comment here for today. Yeah, this. Where are we in this mess? And I got a funny feeling we're sort of like right in here. A lot of the market did try to push higher, but don't be surprised if we have to come down. I don't know whether we break to new lows. Only time will tell, of course. But I wouldn't be surprised if, like the mug, that we've actually got quite a back and forth for the coming year. So. All right, inflation's still a problem, no doubt about that. It's not going anywhere. We're in a part of the year, cycle-wise, where we should expect higher energy prices. We should expect higher commodity prices. So the next few months, we're probably going to see a check of this sort of one-directional inflation picture that we've seen over the past 6 months, coming out of maybe a bit of manipulation around that U.S. federal election. So it's ebb and flow. I am encouraged by the fact that crypto seems to have bottomed out here to a certain degree, and just following the algo and what it's signaling is telling me, I'm happy to be on the long side here, algo wise. But keep in mind, this is this is about like a once a month signal. So could we A, B, C, D out here over the next week or two and then roll back over? Sure. I'll stay long as this thing says to be long. As soon as it says to be short, I'm back on the sidelines. Actually, interesting to see when we started out the day, the screen was very red, but I'm seeing a hell of a lot of green here. So if you are playing the crypto market and also the venture cap stock market, we'll have our stock pickers club meeting tonight. This was an idea out of a stock pickers club last week. Looks like the trade's working perfectly fine. Whole bunch of really cool names to chew on. If you play the junior stock market, or actually a senior stock market for that matter, if you play the crypto market, keep your eyes peeled. Never a dull moment. It should be an interesting few days ahead of us, especially with the look of that image. That's a good looking image. Speaking specifically about crypto, we've had our CTO, Sjord, unfortunately under the weather for the past week or two, but he does like to come on. I think it's a great idea that our principals are on this daily brief show at least once a week basis. So today is his day, and we dug him up, and he's going to try and give us a report of how life in Europe is right now, what he sees happening in the crypto space, and of course he has a whole bunch of interesting ideas. He was interested in Luna when it was like 40, 50 cents, 60 cents. And of course, you saw what that thing did. So anytime Sjord says, hey, I'm interested in an idea, I would strongly suggest you listen to what he's thinking. And also, too, of course, he's had a whole bunch of names here recently. One of his names, poor guy, he totally was like, this thing's going to take off. The only problem is it took off and it never came back. So we'll get an update on how his rend looks like. Here it is here. Let's see it's up 22 cents on the day. I think Sjord told us, hey, you know what? You might want to take a look at this thing down here and look at what it's done. So if that's not an excuse to be a part of TRI's community and come and listen to the excellent content that our Daily Brief After Party participants offer, I don't know what could be. So anyway, Sjord, you ready to do this thing? Are you with me here, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so he's ready to rock and roll. Have yourselves a great day out there in public land. Maybe pop in and listen to what Sjord's on his mind, and consider joining our community, because I got to tell you, I love this community. Very smart people, and I think we got a good thing going here. So, all right, PMA for the win. All the best, and bye for now.